stop scrolling. Because the next few minutes will change how you see power, privilege, and justice in America. And if you believe stories should expose truth, protect the innocent, and flip the script on bullies who think they own the world, then hit subscribe right now and stay with us. Because this story begins on an ordinary Monday morning in a quiet suburban town where flags fluttered outside manicured homes and authority wore a badge, and nobody noticed the black SUV pulling into the cracked parking lot of Jefferson Ridge High School except Aaliyah Carter, the new girl, whose palms were sweating not because she was afraid of students but because her mother had warned her, softly but firmly, that some places smiled while sharpening knives, and Aaliyah, brilliant, composed, and raised on discipline and dignity, stepped out wearing her braids neatly tied back, shoulders straight, eyes observant, already sensing the weight of being watched, measured, judged, and within minutes. Whispers followed her down the hallway, not because she was loud or rude or wrong, but because she was black, confident, and new in a school where legacy mattered more than merit, and watching from across the hall was Tyler Briggs, star athlete, loud laugh, cruel grin. The kind of boy whose last name opened doors and whose father's patrol car was a permanent fixture at school events. Officer Mark Briggs, a decorated cop who believed order was enforced, not questioned, and Tyler immediately decided Aaliyah was a problem simply because she didn't lower her eyes when he stared, didn't flinch when his friends snickered, and didn't laugh when he made a joke that cut too close to racism to be accidental. And when she calmly told him to move out of her way, something snapped in him, because Tyler wasn't used to resistance, especially not from someone the town silently categorized as less, and so the bullying began subtly at first. Locker doors slammed too close, books knocked from her hands, teachers overlooking raised eyebrows and muffled laughter, until one afternoon Tyler escalated, accusing Aaliyah loudly in the cafeteria of stealing his phone. A lie so casual it shocked even his friends, and when Aaliyah stood her ground, voice steady, refusing to accept blame for something she didn't do, Tyler smirked and made the call that would change everything, dialing his father and saying just enough. "Dad, she's being aggressive, I feel threatened." To trigger a response drilled into law enforcement by fear and bias, and within minutes Officer Briggs arrived, uniform crisp, jaw tight, eyes already scanning Aaliyah as a suspect, not a student, and when she asked politely what the accusation was, her calm was interpreted as defiance, her intelligence as attitude, and despite no evidence, no phone found, no witness beyond Tyler's word, Briggs handcuffed her in front of the entire school, ignoring the principal's weak protest, ignoring Aaliyah's request to call her mother, and as she was led away in tears she refused to shed publicly. Cameras came out, whispers turned into shock, and Tyler felt powerful, victorious, unaware that he had just stepped into a storm he could not control, because what Tyler didn't know, what his father didn't know, what the school didn't know, was that Aaliyah Carter's mother, Renee Carter, wasn't just any parent rushing to the station in quiet panic. She was a sitting judge on the state circuit court, a woman who had sent corrupt officials to prison, who believed the law was sacred because it was fragile. And when Renee walked into the precinct in a tailored suit, badge of authority invisible but undeniable, the room shifted, conversations hushed, and when she calmly identified herself, Officer Briggs felt the first crack of doubt. But pride and protocol kept him rigid as Renee requested the charges, the evidence, the justification, and as every answer unraveled into excuses, Renee didn't raise her voice, didn't threaten. She simply asked for the footage, the reports, the witness statements, and as hours passed and nothing materialized, Aaliyah was released. But the damage was already viral, clips circulating online with captions questioning how easily a black girl could be arrested on a white boy's word. And while Tyler bragged to friends that his dad handled it, the town erupted, protesters gathering, reporters digging, and the school district scrambling, and then came the twist no one expected. Renee Carter recused herself publicly from any involvement, insisting on transparency, while quietly filing a civil rights complaint and requesting an independent investigation, and as the investigation unfolded, patterns emerged. Officer Briggs had a history of excessive force complaints quietly dismissed, Tyler had a record of bullying covered up by donations and influence, and Jefferson Ridge High had ignored multiple discrimination reports, and each revelation peeled back the polished image of the town, revealing rot beneath, and Tyler's friends began distancing themselves as subpoenas landed. Teachers suddenly remembered incidents, students found courage in numbers, and Aaliyah, instead of retreating, returned to school with her head held high, supported by classmates who had once stayed silent. And when Tyler attempted another confrontation, this time recorded by 3 phones, his cruelty exposed itself fully, and the internet turned on him with the same speed it had once ignored Aaliyah. While Officer Briggs was placed on administrative leave, his badge taken, his authority questioned, and in a courtroom packed with observers months later, Renee Carter sat not as a mother but as a symbol, watching another judge preside as evidence showed how power had been abused, how bias had replaced justice, and how a child had been humiliated to protect a lie. And when the ruling came down, Officer Briggs terminated and charged with false arrest, the school district fined and mandated reforms, Tyler expelled and facing juvenile charges for filing a false report. The silence was heavy, not triumphant, because victory didn't erase trauma, but it did restore balance, and in the final twist, when asked by a reporter if she planned to sue for millions, Renee said no, explaining that accountability mattered more than money, that systems must change, not just pay off victims. And as Aaliyah stood beside her, older somehow, stronger, she addressed the crowd, saying she wasn't special because her mother was a judge, but because every child deserved the same protection she finally received. And the story ended not with applause but with reflection, as the town of Jefferson Ridge was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Justice had almost failed and only survived because someone knew the law well enough to challenge it, and somewhere in the crowd Tyler watched, stripped of arrogance, realizing too late that power borrowed can disappear, but integrity lasts. And as the cameras faded and the courthouse emptied, one lesson echoed louder than any verdict: that silence enables injustice, and truth, once spoken, cannot be arrested.